Okay, I apologize for not getting the video up yesterday. I got home from work just in time for the power to go out. Apparently, we haven't got a 100% straight answer, but from what we've been able to gather, somehow a power line went down out on the highway, which is the main lines where our power junction's off of, and apparently when the line went down, it caught a transformer on fire, so it knocked out everybody's power. So I wasn't able to get a video up, and I really actually didn't do anything. I used that opportunity to not do a shitting thing and take a break. But I did get the 1600 tore down Tuesday, I guess it'd be. I think today's Thursday. Shit starts running together. And I found the problem. And it makes a little bit of it. What broke makes perfect sense as to why it did what it did, but why it broke is we got to do a little bit of investigating. And it's that little pin right there and those chunks of it. And this is the servo valve that controls the 3-point. And if anybody, for the guys that have been hanging with me long enough that they saw the videos of me rebuilding the hydraulics on that tractor, they'll know that that pin was split. The end of it was like that the first time I took this apart. At the time I put it back together with a brand new pin in it because that other one would hang up in the guide, and it acted like it was oversized or something, so I figured okay, it was hanging up and that's why it split. No reason to worry because the other pin I checked, it slid in and out just fine. Well, this pin is supposed to be 1 3/4 long, and I guess I should explain first. This plug and check ball goes in here, and that's your load holding valve. In order for the 3-point to go down, there is nothing mechanical that actuates that load holding valve. It's all pressure, it's all hydraulic pressure differential within the servo valve that causes that to actuate. And basically what happens is this plunger has to slide in, which pushes this pin over, which unseats that check ball, which allows oil to flow, which will allow your 3-point to go down. Now, the reason the 3-point would go up but not down was because like 1/4 inch is busted or is shattered off the end of this pin, so it couldn't unseat the check ball to let the 3-point go down, so it would only go up. Now, when I found these chunks, what I pulled the servo valve off the top of the cylinder, and those chunks were sitting under would have been this port right here, which is just a blind port. Apparently they put those in there for machining purposes, and since they had the cylinder down there to block them off, instead of having to take the extra machining steps to drill them out to size and tap them and put pipe plugs in there, they just put O-rings in and used the cylinder to block off ports, which would have saved a lot of time and a lot of money in machining this. So when I pulled the servo valve off, those were sitting right here on top of the cylinder. Now, in order for them to get to that hole, they would have had to have passed through the spool that raises and lowers the 3-point. Now, if you guys remember what I described happened was when it did its little hissy fit deal, it locked the 3-point lever all the way up, and I couldn't move it up or down. Well, what must have happened was these chunks started to fall down through this valve spool, and they must have got hung up in one of the landings and wouldn't let the spool move. And then after the 3-point had drifted down a little bit, it allowed the spool to relax, and it let the pieces fall all the way through again, and then that's why the lever would start moving. So, the only way for this to break is if it's too long. Now, it comes 1 3/4 long, and that is what it is supposed to be. You're not supposed to have to screw with it. Just put it back in, throw it back, or put it back in, put it back together, and away you go. Well, they are probably relying on this copper crush washer to be brand new. Problem is, you can't get that crush washer anymore. They're obsolete for some damn reason. So, apparently, what happened, and it doesn't have to be incredibly over length in order for it to shatter like that. It can be as little as a thou. And we did the math, and if this spool puts full pressure on that pin, it's like, I'm trying to remember, I think it's like 2,400 or 2,800 pounds per square inch that thing puts on that little pin, which, if everything is kosher and all the dimensions are right, isn't a problem, because the spool will bottom out on the end of that bore before it fully strokes that pin. Now, since they're relying on that crush washer for your dimension, my theory is that crush washer is crushed beyond spec, and it closed that gap up just enough that it made that pin end up too long, and something must have happened in the 3-point to put a shock load on that, and that spool stroked all the way and shattered the end off of that pin. So basically what we have to do, and hopefully that pin's going to show up here in a little bit. I ordered it yesterday, and normally it's a 1-day ship from Mayboss, so normally, what time is it? Yeah, I'd expect UPS here any time now, if it shows up today. He said they had the stuff in stock, so it should show up, but we're going to have to do some measuring to figure out what the length needs to be, and we may end up having to grind a little bit off of that new pin to close that length up a little bit so that this doesn't happen again. So, shouldn't be too big of a deal just to put it, or shouldn't be too big of a deal to fix it, put it back together. It wasn't even too bad of a deal to get it apart. I think I had it apart in like, from start to finish, about 15-20 minutes. No big deal. Took me longer to get the stuff ready to drain the hydraulic oil out of it than it actually did to pull it all apart. So, I guess right now all I can do is wait for that pin to show up. Well, it doesn't look like she's going back together tonight. Parts didn't show up. I didn't even think about it, but Dad brought it up. We're wondering if the shipment got delayed last night in that storm that blew through. 'Cause, here, it didn't do what they said it was gonna. We just got a bunch of rain and some wind. We didn't get any of the hail or anything like that, but the worst of it went south of us. And if they were getting high winds like what we had here down on a toll road, they probably took all the trucks off of it. And if they shipped those parts UPS, they probably got routed off the toll road last night, so they probably won't be here till tomorrow. Damn weather. But everything, I got all the gasket surfaces cleaned up and did all the inspecting that I think I need to do. Last thing I gotta check, but can't do it till I get the servo valve in there, is check and make sure that all the linkage is still fine and nothing got whacked out or bent or broke or anything when shit went sideways. It all looks fine, so the only thing that concerns me is how far that dash pot's coming out of the top of the cylinder. I thought that thing should be down in there further, but I honestly can't remember. So, but I can't. You know, the only way for that thing to come out far enough is if that pin broke or that pin broke and one of these two arms spun on the shaft, but both pins are still good. So it's got to be in the right spot. But anyway, that is an update on what I found. It was a stupid problem, so easy fix, cheap fix, other than the time it took to do it. Just figure out how much we need to shorten that pin up and just keep hitting it with a sander and miking it till we get it to the right spot, and because there's really no good way to grind it, it's so stinking small. But anyway, with any luck at all, it'll be back together tomorrow if my parts show up. So I guess that does it for this one. We'll catch y'all on the next one.